Is the U.S. military shooting extraterrestrial or alien aircraft out of the sky? There's much more going on than most people realize, Michael Snyder reports. The internet is full of speculation that at least some of the unidentified objects that the U.S. military has been shooting out of the sky may be alien aircraft. Could this be possible? The head of NORAD says that he's not ruling anything out at this point. What we do know is that the balloon that initially created this wave of hysteria did belong to China. The Chinese claim that it was a civilian air balloon that went off course, while U.S. authorities are telling us that it was likely a spy balloon. But once the Chinese balloon was shot down, NORAD made adjustments, quote unquote, to their radar systems, and all of a sudden they noticed a number of other unexplained objects floating around. And in those days, the three of those unidentified objects have been shot down, and we do not know what they are up to now. We were not told. The first unidentified object was shot down. It was floating over Alaska, and according to ABC News, the object was cylindrical and silverish gray. ABC News chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz first reported that when fighters were scrambled, the pilots did visuals, got images, and said there was no sign the object had propulsion. It was described as cylindrical or silverish gray and seemed to be floating, a U.S. official said. That caught my attention right away because there have been many reports of cylindrical UFOs over the years. In addition, it's been reported that the object was actually interfering with the sensors of the aircraft that were sent to shoot them down. When the U.S. first detected this object over Alaska, they sent up F-35 jets to see what was going on, she explained, and these pilots reported back very conflicting accounts. The pilots of the cutting-edge stealth fighter said that this object was actually interfering with the sensors of their aircraft, and they could not figure out why, because there was no identifiable kind of surveillance equipment on the object, she said. This is a huge red flag. In addition, we're being told that the object appeared to be floating without any sort of propulsion. According to Bertrand, the pilots were saying that they did not see anything on the object that appeared able to propel it, that it seemed like there was no way that this was actually able to stay in the air. It's possible that ahead of the high-speed, high-altitude encounter, the pilots may have misinterpreted the type of aircraft, which was described as being about the size of a small car. The Pentagon official told ABC News that the object was cylindrical and silverish gray and gave the balloon-like appearance of floating without any sort of propulsion. Either the Russians or the Chinese have some sort of technology that we currently do not understand, or this object came from an unknown source. Needless to say, either option is quite chilling. The second unidentified object we shot down was floating over northern Canada, and in this case, the unidentified object was also cylindrical in nature. A U.S. fighter plane shot down a second unidentified high-altitude object on that time in Canadian airspace over the Yukon. According to NORAD, the object was first spotted at night and briefly entered U.S. airspace, at which point two U.S. F-22s were sent to monitor it. It moved into Canadian airspace later on Saturday, and President Biden, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau authorized shooting it down. And in the Saturday evening news at that time, the Canadian Defense Minister, Anita Anand, said it was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flights. She also described it as potentially similar to the one shot down off the coast of North Carolina, though smaller in size and cylindrical in nature. It's probably likely that the cylindrical object over Alaska and the cylindrical object over northern Canada both originated from the same source. We just need to figure out who sent them. The third unidentified object we shot down was floating over the Great Lakes, but this time the object had an octagonal structure. I've been in contact with DoD regarding operations across the Great Lakes region today. Representative Jack Bergman, a Republican from Michigan, wrote on Twitter, Washington time, 3:30 p.m., the U.S. military has decommissioned another object over Lake Huron. I appreciate the decisive action by our fighter pilots, he said. Bergman told Fox News on February 12th that the object had an octagonal structure and was shot down by an F-16 jet at 20,000 feet. He cited Pentagon officials for the information. They informed me, he said, that an F-16 using an AIM-9 missile has shot down an octagonal structure over Lake Huron. The altitude was about 20,000 feet, Bergman said in a phone interview aired by Fox News. And once again, in this case, it's been reported that the object did not appear to have any visible propulsion system. The object President Biden ordered shot down over Lake Huron was described as octagonal in shape, with strings hanging off it, flying at roughly 20,000 feet. U.S. military officials had stated that the craft have no discernible propulsion systems. Could it be possible that all these objects will turn out to be Chinese spy balloons? Sure. But right now, the head of NORAD is saying that he is not ruling out the possibility that at least some of them could have been alien aircraft. General Glenn Van Herk, who leads NORAD and the U.S. Northern Command, said he would leave the possibility of aliens up to the intelligence community. U.S. fighter jets have shot down 3 unidentified objects in as many days and at that time, but the military has yet to confirm what they are. They're not telling us what they are. I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I have not ruled out anything, Van Herk told reporters when asked about the possibility of the objects being extraterrestrial. He added, at this point, we continue to assess every threat or potential threat unknown that approaches North America with an attempt to identify it. Did he really just say that? Yes, he did. But when the Biden administration was asked about the possibility of alien aircraft, they gave a much more politically correct answer. Speaking from White House podium, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said she wanted people to hear straight from President Joe Biden's administration that alien involvement with these incidents is not a working theory. Quote, I know there have been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity that these recent takedowns, she said, referring to authorities shooting down from 4 high-altitude objects, including a suspected Chinese spy balloon over North American airspace at that time. Of course, the truth is that the Biden administration cannot tell us what these unidentified objects were, and so far our military has not recovered records from any of the 3 that were just shot down. How is that possible? The Pentagon is yet to recover debris from the 3 UFOs shot down over Alaska, Canada, and Michigan, and is yet to offer any kind of explanation as to what they are, how they were able to fly, or whether they pose a genuine threat to America. Hopefully the wreckage will soon show that the objects belong to Russians or Chinese, because if the objects did not come from them, we may have been shooting at aircraft that belong to some very dark forces. And he said, as I discussed in a previous article, hordes of unidentified aircraft have been violating U.S. airspace for years, and U.S. Senator Marco Rubio just made the exact same point in one of his most recent tweets. Republican Rubio tweeted at that time, the last 72 hours revealed to the public what was happening for years, unidentified aircraft routinely operating over restricted U.S. airspace. This is why I pushed to take this seriously and created a permanent UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena equivalent to UFOs, task force 2 years ago, end quote. He's right, but up until now, the general public had not been fired up about such things. In one of the 43 chapters in my latest book, I take a look at what our leaders have been publicly admitting about these unidentified aircraft, and there's much more going on than most people realize. The Russians and the Chinese are definitely significant threats, but there are also other threats that are looming out there that are even more sinister. And this is on Collective Spark by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Michael's new book entitled Chaos, available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon, and you can check out his new Substack newsletter right here. About the author, Michael Snyder, extremely controversial new book, Chaos, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. You can connect with Michael on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and share his articles on your own social media accounts. It's definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.